Did you seriously just broadcast that across all known frequencies? Lieutenant Sarah Chen stared at the holographic display, her coffee mug frozen halfway to her lips. Like, actually broadcast it? To everyone? Communications Officer Jake Martinez leaned back in his chair, a smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. You bet your stars and stripes I did. Every frequency, every format, and translated into all 37 known alien languages. Even threw in some interpretive dance notation for the harmonious collective. The Council is going to have an aneurysm, Sarah groaned, finally taking a sip of her now lukewarm coffee. Literally. The Vraxians have 3 brains, and I'm pretty sure you just gave all of them simultaneous strokes. Good, Jake replied, spinning his chair to face her. Maybe while they're recovering, they'll actually take a moment to think about what they've done. Or, what they tried to do. The message that Jake had just broadcast across the galaxy was simple, really. A compilation of humanity's greatest hits, so to speak. But not the usual peaceful stuff that the Galactic Council preferred. No classical music or philosophical treatises or mathematical proofs. No, this was different. This was humanity at its most terrifying. It started with footage from Earth's military history. Not the sanitized version they usually shared, but the raw, unfiltered truth. Ancient warriors charging into battle, medieval sieges, modern warfare, and finally, humanity's first interstellar conflicts. But that wasn't the scary part. The scary part was what came after. Security footage from 3 days ago, when the Galactic Council had attempted their peaceful intervention on the colony world of New Montana. They really thought we wouldn't find out, Sarah mused, pulling up another holoscreen to monitor the incoming responses. That we wouldn't notice them trying to secretly relocate an entire human colony because some rare mineral deposits were discovered under the main settlement. Jake snorted. The Council's been drinking their own propaganda smoothies for too long. They actually bought into that whole humans are peaceful now narrative we've been feeding them. To be fair, Sarah pointed out, we are peaceful. Most of the time. When people aren't trying to steal our planets. The broadcast continued playing across the galaxy, showing exactly what had happened when the Council's peacekeeping fleet had arrived at New Montana. They'd expected to find a compliant population ready to be herded onto transport ships for their own safety. Instead, they'd found 3 million very angry colonists who had absolutely no intention of going anywhere. What followed was perhaps the most comprehensive demonstration of humanity's capacity for creative violence that the galaxy had ever witnessed. My favorite part's coming up, Jake said, grinning as he pulled up the relevant segment. Right. There. On screen, a group of colonists had reprogrammed their farming equipment into makeshift weapons. The sight of a terraform-grade harvester charging through a Council dropship like it was made of tissue paper was particularly memorable. As was the elderly librarian who had apparently been a demolitions expert in her younger days, and had turned the colony's entire water recycling system into what she called a surprise party. The Council forces hadn't known what hit them. Literally, in many cases, as the colonists had developed a rather innovative method of using the planet's magnetic field to make their weapons invisible to Council sensors. Keep watching the feedback channels, Sarah said, her fingers flying over her haptic interface. I want to see exactly when they realize. She didn't have to wait long. The first responses started flooding in. Confusion at first, then dawning horror as the various species of the Galactic Council began to understand exactly what the broadcast was showing them. Oh, this is good, Jake chuckled, pulling up a particular message. The hive consciousness of the Zexthra just sent a formal apology. Apparently they're deeply regretful for their role in the Council's unconscionable actions, and would like to reassess their diplomatic stance regarding human territorial sovereignty. Funny how watching a bunch of farmers turn their equipment into weapons of mass destruction can change people's perspectives, Sarah replied dryly. Have we gotten to the part with the school yet? Jake checked the timestamp. Almost. 3, 2, 1. The broadcast shifted to footage from New Montana's primary education center. The Council forces had made the mistake of thinking it would be an easy target. Surely the humans would surrender if their children were threatened. They hadn't counted on 2 things. First, that human children are taught emergency protocols from practically the day they can walk, and second, that human teachers are possibly the most terrifying force in the known universe when their students are threatened. The footage showed the Council forces breaking into the school, only to find it apparently empty. Then the children's art projects came alive. Every crayon drawing, every clay sculpture, every science fair project had been rigged as part of an elaborate defense system. The Council soldiers were pelted with chemically enhanced glitter that adhered to their environmental suits and shorted out their systems, trapped in rapidly expanding foam that had started life as a "how do polymers work" demonstration, and thoroughly humiliated by what appeared to be an army of remote-controlled sock puppets armed with tasers. "The teacher's lounge segment is next," Sarah said, unable to keep a straight face. "Did we include the part where Mrs. Rodriguez gave that Vraxian commander a detention slip?" Complete with her famous, "I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed" speech, Jake confirmed. "Though I think the real psychological damage came from when she made them sit in the corner and think about what they'd done." The responses from across the galaxy were becoming more intense now. Several species had formally withdrawn from the Council. The Harmonious Collective, true to their nature, had composed a 27-hour symphony expressing their shame and remorse. The Vraxians, all three of their brains apparently still functioning, had sent a message that was essentially the diplomatic equivalent of, "It wasn't me, it was all their idea, please don't hurt us." But the broadcast wasn't finished. The final segment was perhaps the most important. Footage from the Council's hasty retreat from New Montana, followed by clips from the emergency session they'd held afterward. In their panic, they'd forgotten about human surveillance capabilities. The galaxy watched as the Council's leaders argued about how to handle the situation, their true colors showing at last. They'd planned similar peaceful relocations for other human colonies. They'd been systematically underestimating and dismissing humanity's capabilities for years. They'd convinced themselves that humans had grown soft, that they'd forgotten their warrior past. The broadcast ended with a simple message, written in every known language. Humanity remembers. Humanity adapts. Humanity protects its own. And humanity is done playing nice. "Impact assessment?" Sarah asked, scrolling through the flood of incoming messages. Jake pulled up a summary screen. "Let's see. 17 species have withdrawn from the Council entirely. 23 have demanded emergency sessions to reassess their positions on human expansion. The Hive Consciousness is offering us exclusive trading rights in 3 sectors. And, oh, this is interesting. The Vraxians are offering to exile their entire Council delegation to prove their sincere regret for their actions." "Not bad for a day's work," Sarah said, finishing her coffee. "Though I have to ask, the sock puppet army, was that really necessary?" Jake grinned. "Psychological warfare, Lieutenant. Nothing terrifies an alien quite like not understanding why something works. They'll spend years trying to figure out the strategic significance of googly eyes and pipe cleaners." "Fair point. And I suppose it's better than what the high school drama club wanted to do." "Oh God," Jake shuddered. "Don't remind me. I still have nightmares about their proposed flash mob interpretation of human military history." Sarah was about to respond when her console lit up with a priority message. She read it quickly, her eyebrows rising. "Well, well. The Council's just announced an emergency session to draft new laws regarding colonial rights and sovereignty. Apparently, they've had a sudden change of heart about the importance of respecting territorial claims." "Amazing how that works," Jake said, starting to compile the response data. Almost like they needed a reminder about why the galaxy used to be terrified of us. "Used to be?" Sarah gestured at the incoming messages. "I'd say we just reminded them why they should still be terrified of us. Though I have to admit, I never thought I'd see psychological warfare conducted via children's art supplies." "That's humanity's secret weapon, isn't it?" Jake said, his expression growing more serious. "We're not just warriors or diplomats or scientists. We're everything, all at once. We can turn farming equipment into tanks, school supplies into weapons, and sock puppets into psychological warfare tools. We can be your worst nightmare or your best friend, sometimes in the same moment." "And now the galaxy remembers that." Sarah nodded. "Though I have to ask, did you really need to include that clip of the colony's retirement home residents recreating ancient Earth warfare tactics?" "You mean the part where they used their hover chairs to recreate the charge of the Light Brigade?" "Absolutely. Nothing says don't mess with humans quite like watching octogenarians execute perfect cavalry maneuvers with mobility scooters." Sarah laughed, then looked at her console again. "New message from Fleet Command. They want to know if we think the broadcast will be enough to prevent future Council interference." Jake considered this for a moment. "Well, we showed them that human children are better at tactical planning than their elite forces, that our elderly can outmaneuver their best pilots, and that our farmers can turn agricultural equipment into weapons that their military engineers can't even understand. Plus, we demonstrated that even our art supplies are potentially lethal. If that's not enough to make them think twice, I don't know what is." "Point taken," Sarah said, composing a response to Fleet Command. "Though we should probably prepare some follow-up demonstrations just in case. I hear the primary school's science fair is coming up. Now that's just cruel, Jake grinned. I like it. Nothing strikes fear into the heart of the galaxy quite like the words, "My kid did a science experiment." As they settled back into their duties, monitoring the continuing fallout from their broadcast, both officers felt a sense of satisfaction. They'd reminded the galaxy of an important truth. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't its weapons or its technology or even its determination. It was its ability to turn anything, absolutely anything, into a tool for victory. And if that meant the galaxy would now live in fear of sock puppets and science fair projects, well, that was just an added bonus. "Hey, Sarah," Jake said after a while. "Want to hear something funny? The Harmonious Collective just sent a request for clarification. They want to know if human children's birthday parties should be classified as military training exercises." Sarah nearly choked on her fresh cup of coffee. "What did you tell them?" "I sent them footage of a typical 5th grade laser tag tournament." "You're evil." "Thank you. I try." The universe, they knew, would never look at humanity quite the same way again. And that was exactly the point. After all, sometimes the best way to keep the peace is to remind everyone why starting a war would be a terrible idea, especially when your potential opponents can turn sock puppets into weapons of mass destruction. It was just another day in the life of humanity's diplomatic corps, keeping the galaxy peaceful through the strategic application of farmer-engineered WMDs, militarized art supplies, and the lingering threat of what might happen if someone really made the primary school's chess club angry. Peace through superior creativity. It wasn't exactly what their ancestors had in mind, but it worked. And in the end, that's what humanity did best, making things work. Even if the solution involved tactical sock puppets and weaponized science fair projects, the galaxy would adapt, eventually, once they finished trying to figure out the strategic implications of macaroni art. "Lieutenant Chen, you might want to see this," Jake called out, his eyes fixed on the holographic display that had just materialized above his workstation. "Remember how we thought the broadcast would be enough?" Sarah walked over, fresh coffee in hand. She'd learned to keep a steady supply after the events of the past week. "Please don't tell me someone's trying something stupid already." "Define stupid," Jake replied, expanding the display. "Because I'm looking at some very interesting activity in the Epsilon sector, and I'm not sure if it qualifies as stupid or just criminally optimistic." The display showed a cluster of ships, not council vessels, but rather a collection of what appeared to be independent operators. They were gathering at the edge of human space, just beyond the new Montana system. "Pirates?" Sarah asked, though she already knew the answer. It was always pirates. The galaxy's opportunists had apparently decided that the Council's humiliation meant there was a power vacuum to be filled. "Pirates," Jake confirmed, pulling up their identification signatures. "Looks like they've convinced themselves that we exhausted our creative resources defending New Montana. The logic being that we couldn't possibly have more sock puppets of mass destruction in reserve." Sarah pinched the bridge of her nose. "Sometimes I wonder if the rest of the galaxy shares a single brain cell, and it's currently on vacation." "To be fair," Jake said, typing rapidly as he began composing a response, "they probably think they're being clever. After all, we just demonstrated our defensive capabilities. They probably figure we're not prepared for an immediate follow-up crisis. Which is why they didn't bother to check what's actually in the Epsilon sector right now," Sarah said with a growing smile. "Should we tell them?" "Oh no," Jake grinned. "I think this calls for another broadcast. A much more focused one this time. Though we should probably warn the summer camp first." The summer camp in question was actually one of humanity's more innovative military programs. Under the guise of providing educational outdoor experiences for colonists' children, it was actually an advanced training program that taught the next generation how to turn literally anything into a defensive tool. Currently, they were having their annual gathering in the Epsilon sector, with over 3,000 children learning the fine art of improvised warfare through what appeared to be arts and crafts projects. Sarah opened a secure channel to the camp's leadership. "Commander Rodriguez?" "Yes, the same Rodriguez from the New Montana incident." "Ma'am, we have a situation that might interest your students. How do they feel about practical extra credit?" Jake, meanwhile, was preparing the broadcast. This one would be different from the galaxy-wide message they'd sent before. This one was just for their uninvited guests. "Should we start with the footage from last year's Capture the Flag tournament?" he asked, scrolling through their archives. "The one where the blue team turned their entire base into a giant puzzle box?" "Too obvious," Sarah replied. "Let's show them the talent show recordings. Particularly the part where the Junior Engineering Club demonstrated their quote-unquote interpretive dance routine." The dance routine had actually been a sophisticated demonstration of swarm robotics, performed with what appeared to be harmless glow sticks and ribbons. The fact that those same techniques could be applied to defensive drone networks was, of course, purely coincidental. "Message from Commander Rodriguez," Sarah announced, reading from her display. "She says the advanced class has been working on a project involving synchronized swimming and experimental physics. They're requesting permission to demonstrate." Jake winced sympathetically. Synchronized swimming and physics? Those pirates have no idea what they're about to experience, do they? "Nope," Sarah said cheerfully. "Though I'm more concerned about the beginner's class. They've apparently been studying ancient Earth warfare tactics, with a focus on the more creative generals. Please tell me they're not recreating Hannibal's elephant crossing." "Nothing that simple. They're doing a comprehensive review of guerrilla warfare techniques, adapted for zero-gravity environments, using pool noodles." Jake paused in his typing. "Pool noodles. Pool noodles?" Sarah confirmed. "Apparently they make excellent improvised propulsion devices in zero-G. Who knew?" "Sometimes I think we should feel bad about this," Jake mused as he finished composing the broadcast. "I mean, we're basically about to traumatize these pirates with children's summer camp activities. They're the ones who decided to raid human space." Sarah shrugged. "Besides, think of it as a learning opportunity. For everyone involved." The broadcast began with what appeared to be innocent footage of children enjoying traditional summer camp activities. Swimming, crafts, games, all perfectly normal. It was only if you knew what to look for that you'd notice the swimming formations matched ancient naval battle tactics, or that the friendship bracelets being woven could double as high-tensile restraining cables. "Incoming message from the pirate fleet," Jake announced. "They want to know if this is supposed to be some kind of joke." "Send them the footage from yesterday's scavenger hunt," Sarah suggested. "The one where Team 3 managed to build a functional EMP device out of pine cones and dental floss." "Already on it, though I'm also including the talent show finale. You know, where the drama club demonstrated their unique interpretation of historical siege warfare? The one with the musical number? That's the one. Nothing says reconsider your life choices, quite like watching a bunch of 12-year-olds turn the Pirates of Penzance into a tactical warfare demonstration." The response was immediate. Several pirate ships began backing away slowly. Others seemed frozen in place, their sensors no doubt trying to determine if the children's synchronized swimming routine was actually encoding complex battle formations. It was. "Commander Rodriguez is requesting permission to proceed with the afternoon's activities as planned," Sarah reported. "Apparently, the advanced class has been very excited about demonstrating their new interpretation of water ballet." "Water ballet?" Jake asked suspiciously. "Water ballet, with modifications. They've been studying fluid dynamics." "Oh God, exactly." The pirates, to their credit, seemed to be catching on that they might have made a tactical error. Their formation was beginning to break up, ships turning to flee in different directions. Unfortunately for them, they'd waited a bit too long. "And there's the synchronized swimming team," Jake commented, watching the display. "Is it just me, or did they just use pool toys to create a perfect reproduction of the Battle of Trafalgar?" "Not just Trafalgar," Sarah corrected. "Look at the three-dimensional formation. They're simultaneously demonstrating naval tactics from 6 different historical battles, adapted for space warfare conditions, using pool noodles and inner tubes. The galaxy is never going to recover from this, is it? Probably not, especially not after what the Arts and Crafts Group is about to do. Did you know you can use macrame techniques to create a functional space-worthy defense network?" "I did not, and I'm fairly certain I didn't want to know that." The pirate fleet was in full retreat now, their sensors no doubt overloaded with data they couldn't begin to comprehend. "How do you explain to your superiors that you were driven out of human space by children's pool toys? How do you file a report about being tactically outmaneuvered by synchronized swimmers?" "Message from Fleet Command," Sarah announced. "They want to know if we require any additional support." Jake looked at the display, where the summer camp's advanced class was now demonstrating their mastery of zero-G combat techniques using nothing but pool noodles and what appeared to be rubber duckies. "I think we're good. Though we might want to warn them about the talent show scheduled for next week. I hear the chemistry club is planning something special." "Let me guess. Interpretive dance?" "Close. Musical theater. They're doing a production of The Sound of Music, but with all the songs rewritten to explain complex molecular interactions. Apparently, the Von Trapp family escape scene involves a practical demonstration of catalyst reactions." Sarah shook her head. "Sometimes I think we go too far with this stuff. Then I remember that going too far is basically humanity's signature move. Speaking of which, Commander Rodriguez is asking if we want to see the footage from the junior class's puppet show. Do I want to know? Probably not. Let's just say it involves string theory, literally, with actual strings. As they watched the last of the pirate ships flee the sector, Sarah and Jake couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. Once again, humanity had defended itself not through overwhelming force or advanced technology, but through sheer creative insanity. You know what the best part is? Jake said, saving the footage for future use. We didn't even have to show them the footage from the cooking class. Sarah shuddered. Let's save that for a real emergency. The galaxy isn't ready to see what happens when you combine culinary arts with particle physics. Fair point, though I do want to see the look on their faces when they realize that human children's swimming lessons include practical demonstrations of fluid dynamics and their applications to space warfare. One traumatic revelation at a time, Jake. One traumatic revelation at a time. In the Epsilon sector, the summer camp continued its activities as if nothing had happened. After all, they had a talent show to prepare for, and you can't rush perfection, especially when that perfection involves turning do-re-mi into a comprehensive explanation of molecular bonds and their potential applications in defensive systems. Just another day in human space, where the line between education and tactical warfare was not so much blurry as it was non-existent. And somewhere in the galaxy, a group of pirates was trying very hard to forget what they'd seen, and failing miserably. Because some things, once seen, can never be unseen, like a perfectly executed zero-G ballet routine that just happens to demonstrate advanced combat maneuvers. With pool noodles, humanity's reputation for creative insanity remained secure. The Galactic Council has formally requested a cultural exchange program, Sarah announced, staring at her display with an expression that suggested she wasn't quite sure whether to laugh or cry. They want to better understand our educational methodologies. Jake spun his chair around so fast he nearly fell out of it. They what now? Apparently, after reviewing our recent broadcasts and the summer camp incident, they've concluded that they fundamentally misunderstand human society. Sarah paused to take a sip of her ever-present coffee. The Vraxians are particularly interested in what they're calling our innovative approach to childhood development. Do they realize what they're asking for? Jake asked, already pulling up the relevant protocols for cultural exchange programs. I mean, have they thought this through at all? The request comes with a fascinating appendix, Sarah continued, her voice carefully neutral. They want to know, and I quote, if the demonstrated capabilities of human educational facilities are representative of standard methodologies, or if New Montana and the Epsilon Sector Summer Camp represent specialized training programs. Jake couldn't help but laugh. Oh, this is perfect. Should we tell them that those were actually our more relaxed programs? I mean, has anyone showed them what happens in a typical human kindergarten? Actually, Sarah said, scrolling through the request, they've specifically asked about our early education programs. Apparently, some of their xenoanthropologists have developed a theory that human creativity in crisis situations is directly linked to our early childhood development practices. They're not entirely wrong, Jake mused, though I'm not sure they're ready to learn about show and tell. Speaking of which, Fleet Command just forwarded a rather interesting report. Remember that pirate group that encountered our summer camp? The ones who fled in terror from synchronized swimming? How could I forget? Well, apparently they've started spreading stories, very interesting stories, about human children being trained from birth in what they're calling tactical whimsy. Jake raised an eyebrow. Tactical whimsy? Their words, not mine, Sarah shrugged. Though you have to admit, it's not entirely inaccurate. The report includes some rather creative interpretations of what they witnessed. My personal favorite is their analysis of the pool noodle maneuvers. They seem convinced it's some sort of advanced combat training disguised as play. I mean, they're not wrong, Jake pointed out, though I'm more interested in how they interpreted the friendship bracelet incident. Oh, that's in here too. Apparently, they're convinced that human children are taught advanced engineering principles through the guise of decorative craft projects. They've even started a research initiative to decode the hidden tactical significance of various knot-tying patterns. Should we tell them about summer camp merit badges? Absolutely not. Some revelations should be saved for emergency situations. Their conversation was interrupted by a priority alert. Another message from the council, this one marked urgent. Oh, this is interesting, Sarah said, reading quickly. The Harmonious Collective has submitted a formal proposal. They want to establish what they're calling an understanding human innovation think tank. Apparently, they've been analyzing our broadcasts and have concluded that human creativity represents, and I quote, a fundamental paradigm shift in the understanding of species development. A think tank? Jake asked skeptically. To study us? Not just to study us. They want to understand, and again I'm quoting here, the evolutionary advantages of combining educational development with tactical innovation, particularly in the context of artistic expression. They want to understand why we teach our children to turn art supplies into defensive systems. Essentially, yes, though they're particularly interested in what they call our dual-purpose methodology. They seem fascinated by how we manage to make everything serve both a peaceful and tactical function. Have they submitted any specific areas of study? Sarah scrolled through the document. Let's see. They want to understand the tactical applications of human music theory, the strategic implications of our literary traditions, and, oh, this is good, they want to conduct a comprehensive analysis of human playground games. Playground games. Jake's eyes widened. Oh no. We can't let them study playground games. They're not ready for that level of psychological warfare. Too late, Sarah said, pulling up another message. The Vraxians have already begun a preliminary study. They're particularly interested in something they encountered in their historical research, something called Red Rover. Jake winced. How did they even find out about that? Apparently they've been doing deep research into human childhood development. They seem to think that understanding our early socialization practices will help them comprehend our later tactical innovations. And they chose Red Rover as a starting point? That's like trying to understand naval warfare by starting with the nuclear submarine. It gets better, Sarah continued, scanning through more incoming messages. The Hive Consciousness has launched their own research initiative. They're focusing on what they call the tactical implications of human recreational mathematics. Please tell me they haven't discovered multiplication tables. Worse, they found out about skip counting songs. Jake buried his face in his hands. The galaxy is about to convince itself that everything we do is some sort of elaborate military training, isn't it? Already happening, Sarah confirmed. I'm looking at reports from across known space. Every species is suddenly reviewing all their data on human culture, convinced they've missed some vital clue about our true capabilities. The archivists of Zenri have apparently begun a complete reanalysis of human entertainment media, convinced that our fictional narratives contain coded military doctrine. Well, they're not entirely wrong about that last part, Jake admitted, though I shudder to think what they'll make of our children's literature. Too late. The Harmonious Collective just submitted a request for clarification about something they found in their research. They want to know if The Very Hungry Caterpillar is actually a treatise on tactical resource acquisition and strategic metamorphosis. Jake stared at her for a long moment. Please tell me you're joking. I wish I was. They've apparently assembled a team of their finest strategic analysts to decode what they're calling the hidden layers of human juvenile tactical instruction. Should we tell them that sometimes a story about a hungry caterpillar is just a story about a hungry caterpillar? Where's the fun in that? Sarah grinned. Besides, this could work to our advantage. The more time they spend trying to decode non-existent hidden messages in our children's literature, the less time they'll spend causing actual problems. Their discussion was interrupted by another priority message, this one from Fleet Command. Oh, this is perfect, Sarah said, reading aloud. Command wants to know if we should be concerned about the sudden galaxy-wide interest in human educational practices. Apparently, 17 different species have submitted formal requests to observe human childhood development facilities. 17? That's actually kind of terrifying. What exactly are they hoping to learn? According to these requests, they want to understand, and I'm quoting again, the fundamental principles that allow human children to seamlessly integrate creative expression with tactical innovation. One species has specifically requested permission to observe human art classes, convinced that our teaching of color theory must somehow relate to advanced battlefield tactics. Jake was silent for a moment, processing this. You know what the really funny part is? They're going to observe completely normal human children doing completely normal human things. And somehow come away even more convinced that we're all secret military geniuses. Probably, Sarah agreed. Though I'm more interested in what they'll make of show and tell. Can you imagine their reports? Human children are required to regularly demonstrate their ability to present tactical analyses of personal artifacts while maintaining group cohesion and defending their positions against peer review. We're never going to convince them we're not all secret military masterminds, are we? Probably not, though I'm not sure we should try. After all, a galaxy that's convinced human children's games are actually advanced military training is a galaxy that's going to think very carefully before causing trouble. A new alert caught their attention. This one from the summer camp.
Commander Rodriguez wants to know if we'd be interested in observing next week's activities, Sarah reported.
Apparently, the junior class has decided to put on a production of Charlotte's Web. Why do I feel like this isn't going to be a standard performance? According to the note, they've adapted it to incorporate principles of web-based defensive networks and strategic information dissemination. Jake blinked. They're turning Charlotte's Web into a demonstration of tactical communication networks? Using actual web-weaving techniques, yes. Apparently, the Arts and Crafts department has been very enthusiastic about the project. The galaxy isn't ready for this level of human creativity, is it? Definitely not, Sarah agreed. Though I have to admit, I'm looking forward to seeing how the xenoanthropologists try to explain this one in their reports. Human children's theatrical productions serve as practical demonstrations of advanced tactical concepts, disguised as simple storytelling exercises. Should we tell them about holiday pageants? Absolutely not. Let them work up to that level of tactical complexity naturally. Besides, we should probably warn them about the science fair first. Oh God, the science fair, I forgot about that. Commander Rodriguez hasn't, Sarah said, pulling up another message. Apparently, this year's theme is creative solutions to everyday problems. The kindergarten class is particularly excited about their project. Do I want to know? They're doing a presentation on efficient sandwich construction techniques with practical demonstrations. That doesn't sound too bad. They've incorporated principles of architectural engineering and structural integrity testing, using peanut butter as a binding agent. The galaxy is doomed, isn't it? Pretty much, Sarah agreed cheerfully. Though at least they'll be thoroughly confused while they're being dominated by our superior sandwich-based engineering capabilities. Just another day in human space, where children's stories might or might not be coded military doctrine, where summer camp activities doubled as tactical training exercises, and where the galaxy's finest minds were about to be thoroughly bewildered by a kindergarten science fair. Humanity's reputation for creative insanity remained not only secure, but was reaching new heights of legendary status. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, a group of very serious xenoanthropologists was about to begin a detailed analysis of the very hungry caterpillar, convinced that within its pages lay the secret to human tactical genius. They weren't entirely wrong. But they weren't exactly right either. And that, perhaps, was the most human thing of all, the end.